Rico. Rico. Rico! Pay attention.
Sorry, Mr. Ratchak.
Let's sum up. This year we explored the failure of democracy, how the social scientists brought our world to the brink of chaos. We talked about the veterans, how they took control and imposed the stability that has lasted for generations since. You know these facts, but have I taught you anything of value this year? Why are only citizens allowed to vote?
It's a reward. What the Federation gives you for doing federal service.
No. Something given has no value. Look, when you vote, you are exercising political authority. You're using force. And force, my friends, is violence. The supreme authority from which all other authority is derived.
My mother always said violence never solves anything.
It's Two Dads, One Movie. It's the podcast where two middle-aged dads sit around and shoot the shit about the movies of the 80s and 90s. Here are your hosts, Steve Paulo and Nick Brianna. Hello, everybody. It's another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And today we're talking about the 1997 sci-fi extravaganza, Starship Troopers. I'm super excited to talk about this movie, Nick. This is one that I have loved since it came out. We will talk a little bit about its reception at the time in the late 90s when it came out and how confused perhaps its reception was for the most part.
Yes.
But it is directed by Paul Verhoeven, who's one of my favorite filmmakers. He had a run in the 80s and 90s of doing, I think in order, he did RoboCop, RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, in this. That was like a run of 5 films for this guy, which they're all really biting satire, as Starship Troopers is. And so what's your sort of history with this one?
Oh man. So this hit us, junior year?
Very
high
beginning of
school,
sophomore. When you look at the release date was November of 97. So this was in the very beginning of our senior year.
Okay. This hit at the right time.
Yeah.
At least as far as just loving and being entertained by a movie, like a movie that had everything a teenage kid was looking for. It definitely occupied space on my favorite movie of all time list for a bit when I first saw it the first couple times. Although, we'll get into more of like the satire element of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was enjoying it for the reasons intended by the director. I was just having a really fun time watching the movie. I love the effects for the time.
Oh, man.
The cheesiness, like the unintentional comedy of it.
Yeah.
I mean, not like beating you over the head that it's supposed to be a joke, but I think the director intended on certain things to be funny.
Yes.
It really hit for me, and God, what a lot of fun this was. And it didn't hurt that there were some titties in it. I mean, for a 17-year-old at the time, those were hard to come by and, or easy to come by. So yeah, this was such a fun one. And I saw it in the theater probably I think I saw it 3 times in the theater, which was a lot for that era.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you?
Yeah, this was definitely one I saw, in the theater, maybe not opening weekend, but I think, as word of mouth went around about it, it's definitely one that was like a theater watch for me. Watched it several times throughout college. It was definitely the kind of movie that, if anytime I wanted, at the time, what I appreciated about it was this sort of like schlocky, over the top, gruesome, like violence of it. It was very much enjoyable in the way that like bad B movies of like the 60s can be super enjoyable.
Yeah.
I didn't, at the time really understand all of the, implications of what was being said and shown to us, except I did, as I got through into college, I ended up getting my degree in political science. I ended up taking classes in terrorism and in civil liberties and like all kinds of different things that did give me another view of this picture and the militarization and things. So I have really appreciated this movie as satire, not literally since its release, but like since the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that has only become more of a mainstream accepted position in the last maybe 10 years, give or take. So, okay, let's jump into the facts on Starship Troopers. It came out on November 7th, 1997 with a well-earned R rating, a running time of 129 minutes, directed, as we said, by Paul Verhoeven, written by Edward Neumeier from the novel by Robert A. Heinlein. It stars Casper Van Dien, Denise Richards, and Dina Meyer, alongside a handful of other really great people too. But on Rotten Tomatoes, it received a 72%. It's actually higher than I expected, given everything. But again, those are professional scores and reviews, not necessarily from the time it was released. So we should absolutely have had a critical revisiting of this film over the last decade. So I think that some of that Rotten Tomatoes score is informed by more recent reviews reviews, really digging into the satire of the film.
Yeah, I would love a snapshot of what the Rotten Tomato score was as of like 98 or 99
Whatever
or something.
the earliest Rotten Tomatoes existed. Yeah, it would have been a very different thing, I think. On IMDb, a 7.3 is a very respectable score. It did win 3 awards, including Best Makeup and Creature Effects at the 1998 Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. The other one was the other award show that it won at was a very specific like sci-fi and horror award show as well. Here's where it fell a little flat. On a $105 million budget, which
big budget.
Big budget. It's about the same budget as Terminator 2 that came out 6 years prior. It earned just $121 million at the box office. So it did break even, but at a 1.15 times its budget, that is a disappointment, if not an out and out flop. So it was not particularly well critically received at the time. It was not a box office success. It garnered huge numbers on home video, not to the extent that Verhoeven's Showgirls did. It ended up making so much money on home video that it more than made up for the fact that it was a huge flop as one of the first NC-17 films to be wide released in the 90s. But yeah.
Is it so? I love Verhoeven as well. Is it surprising to you that he was given the helm of another like $100 million budget film right after Showgirls, which didn't do as, I mean, his other ones like Basic Instinct, Total Recall, those were huge successes. Yeah. But I mean, Showgirls was kind of a notorious flop at the time, or critical disappointment, even though despite being misunderstood, whatever. But money wise, I think it's crazy that he was given this much to work with. I'm glad he was.
Yeah. I think it was probably a thing of timing where the green light for this film potentially even came before the kind of result of Showgirls. I think there was only 18 months or so between the release of these two movies, maybe 2 years. But it was kind of in that ballpark. So it's possible that this ball was already rolling. Second is an adaptation of Heinlein, and getting the rights to adapt Heinlein's novel was probably more important to the studio than necessarily who was doing it. But Verhoeven had a very important sort of thing, that he wanted to say about Heinlein's novel and its glamorization of state violence in particular. And so, I'm glad it happened. I don't really know the details behind it. I think that could be a very interesting story to see, sort of why didn't Showgirls tank Verhoeven's career, I guess would be the question. Right. And it's also possible too that again, the home video bounce and the fact that it made a ton of money that way, maybe that was what sort of made it like, hey, this guy makes movies that, maybe they don't pull it in that initial release, but they end up pulling it in one way or another. And that might have been all that mattered.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess there was also a bit of a hunger for anything of this genre with the success of Independence Day and various like alien attack type movies. Yep. I don't think the Star Wars prequels were still a couple of years from starting to come out.
They were. This was the same time. This was basically the year when they re-released A New Hope. The whole special editions thing also happened starting in 97. So, but that was a hot idea at the time. Sci-fi was very, big at that time. I think like Event Horizon was around this time, or maybe the next year. So there was definitely a lot of sci-fi being placed into several genres and us getting sci-fi movies of different styles in the especially mid to late 90s. So I think that some of that was just like right place, right time. And Verhoeven had this sort of take on Heinlein's novel he wanted to go with, and he got the green light because, Showgirls doing whatever it did, like the man has had a track record of massive success. So, it's not hard to see a studio be like, we're going to give Paul Verhoeven another chance. Maybe he gives us another RoboCop or Total Recall instead of another Showgirls.
Yeah. And like you said, misunderstood film here, and got some weird critical response. You mind if I
go for it.
Kind of read a couple quotes here? So one notable review was from Stephen Hunter at the Washington Post, where democracy dies in darkness. And he titled his review "Goose Stepping at the Movies." And I'm just going to read the first couple paragraphs of his review here, Stephen Hunter, and then we'll talk about him. Silly me. I thought the Nazis lost the war. But here's the exceedingly strange new movie Starship Troopers, commandeering $22 million American dollars in its first weekend and certain to make gobs more, while secretly whispering Sig Heil. The movie recounts the adventures of a platoon of mobile infantry sometime in the next century as it does battle with a race of arachnid nasties on the far planet of Klendathu. It's an epic of bug blasting, a movie whose script appears to have been the instructions on a can of Raid. And in some profoundly disturbing way, it's Nazi to the core. Okay. So we texted about this, and it's This is why you're my friend. This is why we do this together. I'm very happy that we're of the same mind of this. Like,
Right.
what is this guy thinking? Okay.
I know Wikipedia wasn't real popular. If it existed at all in 97, it wasn't popular, but it's not hard to find Paul Verhoeven's biography.
No. Okay. So to an average person watching this, I could definitely see someone being like, "God, this is kind of a fascist movie," right? Someone who's not thinking about the intentions of the filmmaker, who would watch a movie and think that, oh, there's a lot of stuff that the guy who made it didn't mean to put in, which is like, no, the amount of money and time that goes in, like everything is very intentional, right? And then to understand the career of Paul Verhoeven, who's like an excellent satirist across all these genres and subjects, like you've talked about, this professional movie reviewer, Stephen Hunter, seemed to have completely missed the point of all of this. And one thing that stood out to me on this watch specifically, that I was like, this is beating you over the head with the fact that it's satire, because it deviates from the original book a bit.
Yes, it does.
And the original book, I believe they live somewhere in North America, in like US or Canada or something. And in this one, they're in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Correct.
Which, if we know anything about post-World War II history, the rat lines, everything, was kind of a safe haven for a lot of the Nazis. It is not unintentional that it takes place in Argentina, the only country that Nazis went to after World War II. Don't look at Operation Paperclip. Don't look at Werner von Braun or anything. But that to me seems like, if you're a professional movie reviewer, that should beat you over the head, that, you know, this is definitely satire, you know, and it's not winking at you the whole time. It surely isn't, but you should know just from the aesthetic. But there's one quick thing about this guy as well. Stephen Hunter, the reviewer, also an author in his own right, created the character of Bob Lee Swagger, who is Mark Wahlberg's character in the movie Shooter, which I love. I love that movie, but it's a very much like a, you know, go-go gun guy. He's written a bunch of novels. This is one of these guys who advocates that, like, you know, toddlers should have machine guns attached to their bottles in case someone like,
for safety.
So is he against fascism? I don't know like what his real opinion is, but I just thought it was funny that the guy who's like really off put by this movie is also someone who thinks that you should bring a bazooka to Trader Joe's.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting, and I think you're right about sort of like the willful ignorance about around moving Heinlein's characters, you know, major characters from the United States to Argentina. The fact that the entire cast is white, yet all the characters are named Johnny Rico, Carmen Ibanez, Isabel Flores. Like, they all have these Hispanic names, because the idea is that, yes, in this fascistic future, you know, German fascism has overtaken, you know, the Aryan race has destroyed, you know, everything else in the world, and is basically, it's like, you know, there's not like every character's white, but like, there is a takeover has occurred culturally and everything. And it's like, you know, you can look at it, and if you are the kind of person that looks at a movie and just says, whatever I'm being shown, there's no subtext, it's just context, it's just, this is what I'm watching. Okay, then this is going to be a movie that'll probably upset you and probably be very confusing. But the second that you recognize, you know, that like Verhoeven grew up in occupied Holland during World War II and is a very much an anti-fascist, like, it becomes obvious. And you're right, like the over the top violence, the like absolutely like unnecessary horrors of war that are not needed to tell this story, but are absolutely part of the story Verhoeven's trying to tell.
Yes.
It's like, how is it not more obvious?
And the aesthetic choices too are fully intentional. Like the uniforms, especially we see that, you know, later on, Neil Patrick Harris's character, it's like very SS. Like, I mean,
very intentional.
It's
very
so
Hugo
intentional.
Boss.
And you know, this reviewer, I just don't get it. Like, art is not supposed to make you feel comfortable at all times, and especially if it's trying to get a point across to you. Like, you have to squirm a little bit in your seat to like settle with like, or to reconcile with what this is actually saying about the world.
Yeah, and true artists, filmmakers who are true artists, their work does not exist in a vacuum. You know, Quentin Tarantino's movies do not exist in a vacuum. They exist in the context of all the other movies he's made. Right. And so when there are choices that he makes, you know, there is context that is built up in other pieces of work he's done, even if it's not literal connections, right? And sometimes they are literal connections in his work. With Verhoeven, it's the same thing. You cannot look at this movie or look at Total Recall or Basic Instinct or anything else and just accept it as, you know, that it's in a vacuum and it only exists as its own piece. Like, you cannot look at a movie like RoboCop and think that that is pro police militarization, or pro, corporate privatization of public services. You can't look at Total Recall and think that it's pro consumerism and pro, go on vacation and travel the universe at any cost, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. That is ridiculous. So to look at this movie and think it's pro-fascist is just, it's either willfully ignorant or it's just kind of an uneducated viewpoint of the film. And to slightly defend Mr. Hunter here, that was a pretty common take in the late 90s, that this was a pro-fascist film.
Sure.
And that it did not have subtext. And so he wasn't alone in being wrong.
Right. And I also do want to say that this coming out in 1997, and look, we like just the colonizers of the world, whatever, have been doing the same shit for a very long time. But I think if this movie came out in 2004 or something like that, it would have been received better, because that was a more in your face version of what this movie is kind of getting at.
Yeah.
With Iraq and Afghanistan, and the parallels that we have, these, these races that we consider to be insects and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I wonder if it was maybe a victim of the timing that it came up in I don't know.
Maybe. I don't think Verhoeven gets $100 million to make this movie after 9/11.
Oh yeah. Actually,
I don't think that, so
absolutely true.
It's sort of like it benefited from and suffered from the time that it came out. So, all right, let's jump into the actual film. There's plenty of pretext for Starship Troopers.
But it's important to lay that out. So I'm glad we chatted about that.
It's absolutely part of, frankly, it's hard to, if anybody listening thinks we're enjoying the movie in a pro-fascist context, I would hate that. That's not at all right. I love this movie because of its satire. So, so we start off with FedNet. This is the Federal Network. This is a series of propaganda films and news bites that always end with, would you like to know more? And the last movie that we did together was The Naked Gun. And there's a great scene in that where Frank Drebin is in front of a fireworks factory that's burning and exploding and saying nothing to see here, nothing to see here, which became a meme.
Yes.
And one of my favorite meme formats today is the I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part.
Yes.
I'm doing my part. And then cut in Tim Robinson from I think you should leave. I ain't doing shit. Whatever. Great stuff. But that is part of this. And it's right off the bat, you're hit with this absurd moment of all these soldiers and infantry saying, I'm doing my part, I'm doing my part. And then a 10 or 12-year-old child fully in body armor going, I'm doing my part. It's
holding
they're
a big
really
machine
putting
gun.
Children in the infantry.
Yes.
And it's this is so clearly satire. But anyway, it's fantastic. And it's a really great, Fox News was still a bit of in its infancy-ish in 97. It hadn't, taken hold of the American political consciousness
But
yet.
even the 24-hour news cycle generally hadn't quite arrived
exactly
yet.
So to see this was very much it was a mix between Rupert Murdoch and Leni Riefenstahl, right? I mean, that's sort of where it lives. But I love this device. It shows up 3 or 4 times during the film, the whole FedNet updates and giving us a peek into the larger society at play here.
Right. And it's also a very effective way of just establishing and explaining things really quick, where we don't need a character needing to talk to another character.
Exactly.
And they're basically talking about we're at war with this race of kind of arachnid type alien beings on this planet called Klendathu, which is very far away.
Yes.
And I guess the threat of Klendathu is that these bugs, or some of the bugs, are able to shoot some kind of a plasma from their body. And the Klendathu is surrounded by this asteroid field.
Right.
And basically they can hit it with the plasma, the plasma is the cue ball.
Yep.
And then the asteroid is going to, launch its way towards Earth. So essentially, people we consider to be bugs who are basically throwing rocks to defend themselves.
Exactly. Very good point, throwing the rocks. However, it's a good point to point out now, right? We were told all throughout the first half of this movie just how dumb the bugs are and how humans are vastly superior intellectually, that attacks from the bugs are random and whatever, all this stuff. And yet, right off the bat, we're shown that they are able to send a meteor literally across the breadth of the Milky Way galaxy from their system to ours and hit Earth.
Right.
So
that means they know trigonometry.
Right. Yeah. There's some very advanced physics at play here, in order to essentially make that shot, like you did, the pool example, to really, hit the cue ball on the meteor, as it were. And so it's off the bat, we are told one thing and shown something else. And that is another theme throughout the movie, is that we get told that this is reality, but then all of our, the evidence of our eyes and ears, right? To quote George Orwell, shows differently.
Yes, yes.
So we get into high school in Buenos Aires, Argentina. We are introduced into a classroom with four of our main characters are here. We have Johnny Rico, Casper Van Dien, kind of the main character of the story.
Yep.
His girlfriend, Carmen Ibanez, played by Denise Richards, and their friends Carl, I don't remember Carl's last name, but it's Neil Patrick Harris.
Carl Jenkins.
That's an interesting last name.
Yeah, I was a little thrown by that too.
Be Hispanic, but yeah. And then Isabel Dizzy Flores, who is quarterback of the football team, but also super in love with Johnny, and Johnny just thinks of her as a friend, basically. So it's a little bit of a love triangle with Carmen, Dizzy, and Johnny.
And it's kind of a like a sociology class or something like
Social
that.
Studies of some kind, yeah.
And the teacher is a one-armed gentleman played by the great Michael Ironside.
So good.
I don't know if he has in his contract with Paul Verhoeven that he needs to lose an arm at some point in a film, because he gets I believe both his arms ripped off in Total Recall.
Yeah. Yeah. The number of actors that were in Total Recall who show up in this movie, by the way, is very high.
It's good. It's good. So it's the teacher is kind of, explaining to them, well, there was a failure of democracy or something. So we had to bring stability, which is, how fascism explains itself.
It's
right.
Like the social scientists failed us. The veterans had to step in and instill order, like by force.
Patriots
basically.
are in control.
Exactly. Right.
Force is the key to problem solving. Is another thing that he says. So you can tell that they're getting this very fascistic, nationalistic education.
Right. And it's important to note that, nationalism actually doesn't come into play here, right? Because we've gotten to this point in human society where it seems like there are no national borders. There is simply the Federation, which is apparently the entire planet. The headquarters is in Geneva, in Switzerland, but they all treat everything, all the way you become a citizen, all this stuff. It doesn't seem to matter where on the planet you live.
Right,
it's a single global, essentially a new world order. I'm sure that was not unintentional.
But Earth, I guess, whatever Earth is now out colonizing the rest of the universe. So you're kind of not in a nation, but within your planet. Right. That's your new version of nationalism.
Exactly. We've moved to the Star Wars setup, right? Where everybody from Alderaan is one way and everybody from Corellia is one way.
Right.
Yeah.
So it shows them at school and everything. We're kind of getting the sense of how they are as students and all that. They go to check the scores on their math final and they walk up to this bank of video screens, which has a very Demolition Man style keyboard there
with the little M&Ms.
Yeah. And they're tapping on that and you could pull your score up. And Carmen did very well. She wants to be a pilot in the military. She's decided that she wants to enlist, and she got a 97% on her math. Johnny Rico pulls his up. He got a 35%.
That's bad.
And his friend Carl, being a good friend, is somehow able to hack it and bring it from the small screen to where it takes up this entire bank of TVs. Right. So we see Johnny Rico 35%, and everyone's kind of sarcastically clapping for him.
Carl's such a dick. But yeah, so we go from there. So they kind of Carmen runs off to talk to a friend because her, his sister or something went to Fleet Academy where she wants to go to become a pilot. So there's chit chat, but they end up going to a science class where they have these bugs. I don't know where they must have captured them from, one of the bug planets, but they're almost like little larvae. They're like baby ones or something, but they're like beetles. They're still huge.
It's the size of a sea turtle.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Right. So they have to flip them over and start dissecting. And so Johnny is cool, man. He's fine. He's cutting it open. He's got the scalpel going. He's pulling stuff out. I was disgusted by the fact that nobody was wearing gloves during this dissection. How do you pull organs out of a dead thing and not at least wear gloves? But Carmen is not able to stomach this. She actually ends up blowing chunks all over everything, really, because he hands her some wiggling organ or something. Here, hold this, But he basically, I think the whole point is you have to see how quickly you can name all the parts. I think it's because he kind of says, "Oh, we got heart, lungs, spleen, liver, whatever." And so, but the teacher, who has a very interesting look. We don't ever see this woman again.
Kind of a Nazi scientist type look a little bit, right?
This is what I think this was a reference to, and
please.
I don't know for sure. She has clearly had some part of her face burned. She has burn scars next to her eyes and these little tiny goggle glasses things. And I kind of feel like this is a reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay, I
with
was
the
thinking
little
that
tiny
when
glasses guy, and then his face melts at the end. I felt like that was a reference to it. I don't know that for sure. That's absolutely could be my own thing, but that's the vibe I got was that this was is like a face melted Nazi from Raiders sort of vibe. But she is basically telling them how, we humans like to think that we're, the pinnacle of evolution, everything, but these, bugs, they feel no fear, they feel no pain. So they can reproduce by the thousands. Like it's like they're far superior in these like base genetic, in the idea that every species, base instinct is to continue their genetic lineage. They're much better at that than we are, right? They can even send spores into space to go colonize other planets, and it's a very interesting take on, something that we all see, we in this sense being the humanity of this era of this universe sees as inferior, but clearly in some ways is vastly superior.
Right. So. Right. So we have the dissection scene. Yeah. We get a good scene of, I don't know what to describe this sport. I just wrote future ball.
It's football. I mean, it looks like arena football, but it's way more fun. It's there's weird little idiosyncrasies that make it not football. Like a touchdown is worth 5 points for some reason. There's little weirdnesses, but it's basically like they're all wearing what almost look like exoskeleton suits. They're not just armor, because I mean, Johnny's able to like do some crazy jumps that look real, kind of assisted, I guess, in a sense, but it's basically indoor football. And so Dizzy is the quarterback. Rico is, like a wide receiver, but also it looks like everybody plays both ways. So like he has to play defense then and whatever. And so there's a little back and forth, and we meet a player from the other team. His name is Xander. And
Great future name, by the way.
He and Johnny get into it a couple times. There's tackles on both sides, but Johnny does end up prevailing. And his team, thanks to Dizzy throwing him a great pass and he catches the final touchdown, they end up winning the game, which is like a huge big deal. But before that can happen, Carmen and the Xander guy start talking. Yeah. Carmen finds out he's shipping off to Fleet Academy, and she is wet in the pants, like immediately for this guy. I mean, she's like the worst girlfriend. I mean, this is like Joe and Rounders level bad girlfriend stuff. Carmen is terrible to Johnny from Jump Street. But she's very intrigued by this guy because he's going off to Fleet, and that's what she wants to do.
Xander, real quick, for my Saved by the Bell heads, you might recognize the actor who played Xander. He was in a short stretch of the show, Jeff, who was the manager of the Max, who wanted to date Kelly. So he was dating Kelly, and I think he was like over 18 and they were under 18, but they made fake IDs in an episode to get into an 18 and up club, which Jesus never do that. But they see Jeff the jerk, and he's making out with some other girl when he's supposed to be Kelly's boyfriend. So I always know this guy as Jeff the jerk. He has one of those great faces of a guy that you're like, ooh, I can't wait to see this guy get punched.
Textile definition of the punchable face, for sure. Textbook.
And textile too. We should put it on a shirt. So Rico is kind of flirting with this idea. I think maybe he's been playing with it in his head, but he knows that Carmen, his girlfriend, is going to enlist. She wants to be a pilot. And then Carl, his friend, wants to enlist as well. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of toying with it. And I think it shows Rico back at his house. Right. And he's received some kind of literature about joining up. And his parents are like, what's the meaning of this? Yeah. They're against it. And what his dad says is, you're going to Harvard, and that's final with his 35%.
No, but I think the whole point here is that clearly Rico's parents are, first of all,
they're rich, and he's an athlete.
They're civilians. Yep. They're not citizens. This is like made clear just by the way they talk about service and stuff. So I think the idea is that, legacies get into Harvard no matter who they are. It doesn't matter what Rico scores, he can get into Harvard, right? And so, they talk about it a little bit, and he's like, I'm going to do this as my choice. And his dad's like, no, you're not. How about a vacation to Zegama Beach, the Outer Rings, Zegama Beach, which it's like, I don't know what the hell that refers to.
There's a beach in the rings of Saturn.
Right,
or
I guess
Jupiter.
that's what they're talking about. And so, that's what he's going to do, I guess, after graduating from high school. He'll go to Zegama Beach, and, his parents are satisfied that that's it. But he's got to go to the dance, right? This formal dance. It's like the end of school. And so he's all dressed up in a tux and ready to go. And I think that of all the horrifically dystopian stuff in this movie, which there is a ton of, one of the worst is that their entire high school looks like Bishop Ranch. It looks like
it looks like where we had either our junior or senior prom. One of those things that was like at an AT&T office building.
Bell, actually, but
God, come on.
Exactly.
I thought we were at a rich high school. This shit sucks.
To be fair, we went to public school, man. So I think that's... But actually, to be honest, the De La Salle Carondelet junior prom that year was also there because I went with a girl from Carondelet. So it was also the same place. But anyway, so
Stevie two proms here.
Very dystopian, sort of like it looked like a shopping mall. Like it was like the worst, like clinical, sterile looking space. And yet they're having this like dance and whatever. And there's like a DJ or there's singers or something. I don't know. But it's all very kind of weird and futuristic in like the crappiest possible way.
Right. And for some of them, it's kind of their last day because they're signing up for the military. So this is their last night and everything. Rico has a talk with Mr. Radchek, who is the one-armed teacher played by Michael Ironside earlier, who seems, he's definitely a veteran. He has some past in this. And one of the things he was asking the students in the class earlier is, what's the difference between a civilian and a citizen?
Right.
And, trying to get them to think about it. So I think Rico says about how he's been thinking about signing up, and Radchek's basically like, your choice is kind of the only thing you have left. So he's encouraging him without directly telling him to do it.
Yeah, he says like the only freedom we all actually have. Again, this is a totally pro-fascist movie. This is a signal that it's not, is when he says the only freedom we have is to make up our own minds.
Yeah.
That everything else has been taken from us.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, how do you not see the actual point behind this movie? But so he's told, like, you got to make up your own mind, Rico. It's the only true freedom that you have. So Rico agrees to go with Carmen and Carl to enlist the next day.
They go to enlist, and they get kind of placed pretty quickly into their slots. Carmen is going to be sent to the flight academy to become a pilot.
Stoked. Yeah.
Carl draws his, and they said, "What did you get, Carl?" He's games and theory.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's military intelligence. That's big time. Earlier, we had a quick scene where Carl was sitting with Rico and doing kind of a Ghostbusters, like couple of wavy lines type scene where there were playing cards, and Rico was supposed to project to Carl, like with his mind, what he was seeing or something. So Carl's been dabbling in this ESP and stuff like that.
Psychic abilities.
Yeah. So they join, and they realize Rico ends up being assigned to mobile infantry.
Right.
So he'll be a frontline soldier. The personnel who's signing them up and giving them their assignment says, "Oh, mobile infantry, it made a man out of me." And basically, I think he has one arm, and then he backs away from his chair, and he has like one leg or no legs.
He says, mobile infantry made me the man I am today. And he shakes Rico's hands with like this metal prosthetic, right? This like cybernetic prosthetic. But then as he rolls his chair back, you can see he just doesn't have legs at all. Like he's got the pinned up sort of Lieutenant Dan pants, and so Rico takes a moment and goes, "Oh, ooh, okay. All right."
And then they make a very cheesy promise to each other that, hey, no matter what happens, guys, let's always be friends.
Right. Let's make sure we're always friends.
Such a weird thing to say.
Yeah. And it's clear too, because like they're going into different branches, whatever, but also it seems like they're clearly going into a scenario where Carl is going to outrank both of them just kind of by nature of what he's doing. And then Carmen is going to outrank Johnny just by the nature of what job she's going to have. And so it's like in that, in a military setup, like it's harder, I think, to be friends, with people that you have authority over in that sense. I mean, I don't know that for sure. Maybe that's
that's a very good point. Yeah. That's a very good point.
So they decide, or they're going to go to the airport, basically, right? That's like the next thing.
Yeah, and I think we get an intercut of one of those other propaganda videos, and there's the kids who are all like fighting over a gun. Basically, one of the soldiers is showing a bunch of school children his gun, and they're kind of holding it back and forth. It's like something that only Arnie would have been able to wield in T2. So it shows that, and then it shows an ad for a murderer was sentenced to death. Execution live tonight at 8 p.m.
Yeah, he was arrested this morning, tried this afternoon, and sentenced to death. The execution is live tonight at 6 p.m. All nets, all channels. So it's like they make sure everyone sees the execution.
Absolutely. And I think that guy, I read in the notes that the guy who played the murderer in that scene was the writer of the film.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I think so.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I mean, it gives you a good sense of like what this world is like. And then we get another news bite that's showing this outpost that was basically overrun by the arachnids. It said a group of Mormon extremists were killed within the arachnid quarantine zone. So basically just this whole base that was wiped out, people cut in half. Very gruesome.
Very gruesome. Just bodies littered everywhere. Yeah, very, very gruesome. But yeah.
But I mean, imagine if they'd been able to convince those Clendathu about Mormonism.
Yeah, it would have been
all worth it.
It would have been interesting. They could have saved some souls. So they're now at the airport the next day, ready to leave. And Carmen and Rico are saying goodbye to each other. And, basically Rico is like, hey, just say it once, try it on for size. And she says, "I love you, Johnny." He does not say I love you back. Like, what that was just, he just wanted her to say it, and he's like, all right, cool, deuces. Have fun at Academy. Like, that was so weird, Johnny. Like, why didn't you say I love you as well?
Casper Van Dien, Denise Richards, not a lot of future starring roles, right?
I mean, Wild Things, you know.
Right. But it seems like there was something that Verhoeven was going for.
Yes.
I mean, one, with how they look, because they're like undeniably beautiful people to look at. And I think if you're making something that's like a satire of a propaganda film, you want your side to look like the most beautiful according to like whatever standards as you can.
Classical Western beauty, blue eyes, pale skin, fair hair. I mean, the whole deal, you know, like so.
And Casper Van Dien is an actor. I don't know if he's just like, we got into this a few episodes ago about like, is it an actor making a choice or is it somebody? Was he playing a really good dumb guy, or is he just the level of actor where it's like, you're a soap opera guy, it would be real, you would come off really funny in this role because you don't have the chops to like he doesn't have the charisma to be this lead necessarily.
Yeah, he reminds me of who there were the twin brothers. One of them was in Mallrats, and the other one was in Dazed and Confused. Jeremy and Jason.
What
their last
London?
name? London, thank you. Yeah, he reminds me of them.
Okay,
where it's like, not terrible, actually, good enough to do the job. Don't get me wrong. Like, they're not like geeks off the street or whatever, right? But no, this is not a series of really great creative choices being made.
Yeah,
this is a person, barely able to tread water and keep their head above the script is really what it feels like to me. And I felt the same way with the London boys, that they were both sort of like out of their elements in almost every good movie they were in. And so, I feel very much the same way about Casper Van Dien.
And hey, I like him, but it seems like he was put there for a reason. That's, again, I think Verhoeven being brilliant, putting these actors in, knowing their limitations, knowing how it would come across. Yeah. But I did see some quotes from him after the fact saying, in retrospect, maybe I should have thought more about what kind of actors they were rather than just how they looked. That's not the exact quote, but it was to that degree.
Maybe the satire would have been more obvious with like a more nuanced performance. I don't know,
I guess so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're off at boot camp.
Yes.
And we get some action here.
And we get, was it Sergeant Zim, right? Is that
Sergeant Zim?
Our boot basic training leader.
The warden from, or not the warden, the main guard from Shawshank.
That's right.
Great actor, that
Absolutely.
guy.
And he says a line that I think slips past you initially, but you really need to hear it, because he does not say that most of you will not make it through basic training. He says most of you will not live to join the mobile infantry. So he is saying now this doesn't end up becoming true, but he is saying to them, most of you are going to die here.
Crazy.
Before you even get into the military, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he says. And it's like so dark and so dystopian. And yet I think it slips past a lot of people. But yeah, he says, most of you will not live to join the mobile infantry. Like, damn.
And he does. I mean, and it's that type of guy's job, I guess, to toughen people up. Right. But immediately right off the bat, he's talking to his new recruits. He says, which... any of you think you could take me in a fight?
Knock me down. Anybody?
And one of the bigger dudes, raises his hand. He says, "Yeah, sure, I'm going to come." And Zim beats him up and then mercilessly breaks his wrist. Like not a twisting
forearm.
break. I mean, just
snaps his
absolutely
forearm,
just snaps it. So, then he's off. Call for the medic.
Well, this is kind of a pain is in your mind. It's like, no, dude, it's in the compound fracture of his fucking arm, dude.
And then, they shout for the medic. And this is kind of a recurring theme here. And then walking up to the crew as like Rico and all of his fellow recruits are there is Diz.
Yeah, Dizzy's back.
Who's walking up, and he sees her and he's kind of giving her a pissed off look because he feels like this girl's... Oh, man, this super hot girl who's into all the same stuff as me is so annoying.
And clearly wants me.
Yeah. But basically, Diz immediately gets into hand-to-hand combat with Zim and does pretty well, but ends up, getting choked out with his knee on her neck and this gnarly bruise on the side of her neck. So it's merciless. And it's kind of funny that they disregard, once they're in the military, really like race and gender is disregarded.
Absolutely.
As long as you're a psycho killer.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like we accept every type of looking psycho.
Right, exactly. There is an egalitarianism to it.
Right.
But it is, only against the backdrop of this sort of like dystopian existence.
Yeah. One person who is from another film that you might have spotted and might enjoy here. So we get back and the guy who had his arm broken by the sergeant. Like they're in the chow line and they're just yapping it up and pushing each other around or whatever. This redhead with short hair, this woman, is the girl in Swingers that Trent gets her phone number, the one with the cigar, and he gets her phone number and then turns around and rips it up.
I wrote that down too.
What an iconic role there.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, and the crazy part is that Diz is then in the in the mess hall, whatever, talks to Johnny, and he's like, hey, like I was doing this to get away from everything, and then you came and followed me, and she goes, well, who's saying I followed you? And he's, you saying you didn't? And it's like at the dance, she had said she was going to play for, I don't know, Rio, right? Unless Tokyo lets me start. So obviously there is this professional version of this game they're playing in high school, and she was very good at it and able to play. So she gave up a professional sports contract, which look, I don't know everything about this future society that has been cooked up for the movie, but if it's as dark and shitty as I think it is, then you can probably also buy your way into citizenship. And if she had been a professional sports athlete, I think she would have been able to get it that way too. But she is there for Johnny. I mean, it's like she can say whatever she wants, but she is there for Johnny. And he is not crazy to think that.
And he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to sit with her, whatever. Another training scene that we have, they're all throwing knives into a target on the wall. Yep. And it's kind of, funny because it's a laser gun war. And one of the characters played by Jake Busey, Gary Busey's son, Ace who's kind of like, Rico, hey, Rico, I'm your buddy. Yeah, I'll be your buddy. I really liked him in this. Yeah. And he says, hey, Sergeant, what's the point of learning to throw knives? Like in a nuke war, like
you just press a button.
What are we doing here? And he goes, put your hand up on that wall. He's like, what? All right, put your hand up on that wall. And he sticks his hand up on the wall, and the sergeant just absolutely hums a knife right into the middle of his palm.
Like Ted Lasso playing darts.
Just gross, like through his hand, and he's screaming, and he says, basically, you can disable your enemy's hand. He can't press the nuke button.
Your enemy cannot press a button if he cannot control his hand.
Which is cool, except also our enemy are not really ones with hands.
Right. I mean, I guess there must still be some human on human fighting happening somewhere in the world or something, but but yeah, then after this is, one of kind of the more memorable scenes in the entire film, the shower scene. Yep. So this is a co-ed shower scenario. There are no stalls. There's just some big stands up, big shower heads up coming out of the middle of the floor and out of the walls. And it's men and women all together. They're all butt naked and they're chatting. And this is a really, really interesting scene to me. First of all, this was my favorite scene when I was young because a lot of boobies, a lot of butts. It was great. Yep. But now it's one of my favorite scenes because it's so interesting that it's this juxtaposition of this egalitarian society where they really do seem to be treating each other as equals. The men are not checking the women out. Their eyes are on eyes. Like if you look at where everybody's looking and how they're talking to each other, there is no sexual innuendo. Nothing about this is sexy. It is just a bunch of people together showering because they need to get clean, and they're all together in this and they're chatting. So there's something very wholesomely egalitarian about that. Then we get into what they're talking about. So one of the guys is like, I'm going to be a writer. I came to get in the military service because I want to learn more and travel and whatever. And I'm going to write about it and I'm going to ask questions. And he's asking everybody, why are you here? One of them is here because she wants to get into politics. And if you're going to be politics, you got to be a citizen. One of them's here because she wants to have babies someday. And it's much easier to get a license to have a child if you're a citizen. One person wants to be there because he got into Harvard, but his dad couldn't afford to send him. One person wants to go because if he stays where he is, he'll just work the family farm and he wants to get out of it. Like there is this combination of the reasons people today go into the military.
Oh, for sure.
From poverty, no other options to pay for school, all kinds of stuff, with some really dark versions of that. The whole licenses for children. It feels very Demolition Man in that sense.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so I love this scene because it's in many ways it is the most distilled view of what is this society like. It is this glossed, the glossy front of it is sort of clean and egalitarian and everybody's equal. Well, not equal, but everybody within civilians, within citizens is equal, and you can transit between the two, right? There's not hard and fast castes like there is in a lot of societies today. But it's all underpinned with this just absolute darkness and this absolute dystopia that is just really all of humanity has been clamped down on in so many ways. And this scene in particular really draws that out. And it's another one where it's like, were you listening when you were watching this movie? Were you listening to these characters? And are you really suggesting that this is the filmmaker's intention to tell you this is good?
Right. I mean, because a character doesn't say, man, it's so messed up, we need to get a license to have a baby. It's like, of course not. This is ingrained in them.
Right.
Like, we're not supposed to take these people's cues as like how to feel about all this shit. Like we're viewing this as outsiders.
It's basically a series of orphan crushing machine stories. I mean, you know that term, right? And it's basically like, we see these all the time, right? Like, oh, like, you know, man at Walmart, an 85-year-old greeter at Walmart still works so he can pay off his wife's medical debt. And it's like, that's not a feel-good story. No, that's not a feel-good story. That is an orphan crushing machine. We don't ask, how did the person save the orphans from the orphan crushing machine? We ask, why the fuck is there an orphan crushing machine?
Yeah.
And it's yeah, that's what this is. And so I think to not be able to see that, if you are looking at this film critically, was a pretty huge miss. But let's move forward on that.
No, hey, maybe Robert Hunter, if you're still around, Stephen Hunter, the show at twodads1movie.com.
The number 2 and the number 1.
So now we're kind of moving away from boot camp a bit,
right.
And we have Carmen, who's in flight school.
Yes.
And Carmen is in the seat. Her other trainee co-pilot is played by Amy Smart, who doesn't get to do a whole lot in this movie. I love her. I love that movie, Just Friends.
Just Friends. I don't know if I've seen that one.
Ryan Reynolds, very early Ryan Reynolds, like late 90s. And basically he was her best friend in high school. And he was kind of like a fat dorky guy. So it was like a fat suit thing, but now he's Ryan Reynolds. And it's a Christmas time. It's not a bad one.
Nice.
Anyway, but she appeared in a lot of these kind of like, you know, mid-level movies made for people our age.
Yeah, she was Mox's girlfriend in Varsity Blues. Stuff like that.
And then the instructor, who's been there just for a little bit longer, is the rival from the future ball game, Xander.
Right.
And Carmen is, you know, doing a lot of irresponsible bullshit with the ship.
Yeah,
she's really cutting things close with this. I mean, it's not like, if you work at Enterprise, they're going to be like, hey, be careful how you take those corners. All right. It's going to cost $400 to fix that bumper. I can't even fathom the budget that goes into these giant
No. Billions of dollars. The captain of the ship, by the way, is one of my favorite character actresses and someone we've seen before on the show. It's Brenda Strong. So I've always pointed out, she played Sue Ellen Mischke on Seinfeld, and one of the larger characters on Sports Night. Sue Ellen Mischke, of course, on Seinfeld was the woman who walked around wearing just a bra that made Kramer crash.
Yes.
But she was also, she was Nurse Gretchen in Spaceballs. She was the plastic surgeon's assistant who she would give great helmet, that whole thing. So I love Brenda Strong, and she shows up here as the captain of the ship that Carmen's been assigned to.
Hell yeah. So we have Carmen there, and then we have Rico and Diz back in boot camp, and they're like winning a kind of laser capture the flag game by incorporating some of the plays from their football pass together.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're impressed by Rico. They see some leadership in him, and they make Rico squad leader.
Yep.
So he's excited about that. At the same time, then Carmen is sending him a video showing like, this is what my life is like. This is amazing. I think I'm going to go career. I think I want to be on this side of the world. Essentially breaking up with him. Like we can't be together if I'm going to be on the other side of the galaxy.
Career doing this, like we're not going to be together. So what's the point? Like, I'm so sorry. I know it's not what you want to hear, but basically breaking up with him. I don't think she literally says we're not together anymore, but like, it's pretty clear. And all of his bunkmates are like, oh man, so sorry. They ripped your heart, she ripped your heart out and everything. And it's a bummer for him. But of course, the Dizzy is seen as sort of noticing that this has occurred. I'm sure she's cooking up all kinds of plans in her head. So.
Right. So the next exercise they're doing this capture the flag type thing again, but it's a live ammunition course. And this is where, something happens.
Like tragedy strikes, basically. Yeah.
The farmer character who we'd seen, the guy who had his arm broken, whose name was Breckenridge.
That's right.
During the course of this, he has a malfunction in his helmet with the communication. Rico instructs him, take your helmet off. Let me have a look at it. A bullet ricochets. Somebody falls and shoots, right?
One of the other, there was the woman who was going to go into politics, and she is hit by one of the lasers from the dummies they're supposed to be shooting, and it spins her around, and as she falls, she pulls the trigger on her rifle and basically blows Breckenridge's head square off his body, which of course, then Rico yells for medic. Everybody kind of stops, and they slow down, and it's all we hear initially is Zim going, Rico, you are relieved of your command, and so now he's brought before the commandant of the boot camp, played by Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad.
Rico. And he's basically sentenced to. They say, you know, we've already lost 2 good recruits off this. The guy who got killed, and then the woman who had shot him. It showed her kind of like walking out in street clothes.
Don't know if she was kicked out or if she quit based on what happened or what, but she's gone. Yeah.
And Rico is sentenced to administrative punishment, 10 lashes, which looks brutal.
Very brutal. And we hear all 10. He's got the leather, the wrapped up like leather in his mouth to like bite down on for the first few, but that falls out of his mouth after like the 5th one. Yeah, brutal lashing. And then he's, ready to leave. I think he basically is kind of like, I'm gonna go. Like, I'm not gonna stick around for this, which is a little crazy, it feels like, because you've taken your punishment and now you're gonna, I almost would have been like, if they were like, hey, we're not gonna kick you out, we're gonna give you 10 lashes, you'd be like, could you kick me out instead? Like,
seriously,
whatever. So, but he tells Dizzy like he's gonna quit, and so he's packing his bags and he starts heading out towards what they call washout lane, the walking out the thing. And then there is,
and he calls his parents.
That's right,
to tell them that he's coming home.
Yeah, he was like, hey guys, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be back soon. And then the call gets cut off because there's like darkening skies over there overhead. And it's like, oh, that's weird, rain this time of year kind of thing. Actually, I think we skipped like where Carmen up on the ship, they almost got hit by an asteroid that flew by them.
Right.
And that's important. And they tried to call back to Earth to say, hey, a bug asteroid's coming, meteorite, whatever. But their communications tower was destroyed as the meteorite kind of struck them, so they weren't able to put that call in. And so what ends up happening is a new bug meteorite gets through global defenses and hits Buenos Aires. And so that's everybody at boot camp is now rushing over to the TV screens to see what's going on. And Rico said, what's happening? War, we're going to war. And one of my favorite lines from is the redhead, the one from Swingers, looks at Johnny and goes, goddamn bugs, whack this Johnny. It's just the way she says it is very good.
So many cheesy lines there. Earlier when Rico is talking to his parents, the way he says this always killed me from the first time I saw the movie. He's like, I've been an idiot. Like, his delivery is really funny.
And that's why I don't think they were choices by Mr. Van Dien.
I think you're right. Buenos Aires got nuked.
Yep.
Essentially from this bug meteor. It said 8.7 million people dead, just absolutely fully wiped out.
Yeah, over 12 million more wounded. Yeah. Destroyed it. So then we cut to the FedNet stuff and we get Sky Marshal Deans, played, by the way, by the actor who played Ian Miller's father on My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which is a fun movie as well. But yeah, he, basically says like, yeah, we're going to strike back, blah, 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 whatever. Then the next one is like a commercial, right? Because it's like half of these are like little ads, little propaganda ads. And this is a bunch of kids stomping cockroaches on the street.
Yes.
And the absolutely like Black Hole Sun video level maniacal laughing of their mother is so unnerving.
That is such a good description.
Just the wide smile, maniacal laughing of these kids crushing cockroaches under their feet. It's just so gross. And another point where I'm like, how do you not tell this is satire?
Right.
But it's super crazy.
I'm doing my part. And then, so we're back, before they're going off to war, we're at, where the troops are stationed.
Yeah.
And there's a reporter who we see a couple times throughout this movie. And he's giving a report and talking about what happened in Buenos Aires. He does say something about, well, we have been colonizing all these, some people say that our colonization of the universe is leading to this, and maybe a live and let live approach would, and he gets cut off and Rico comes in and just says, I'm from Buenos Aires and I say, kill them all.
Yeah. Yep. It's again, it's kind of, that's some of this is on the nose that you, and I don't know how you could not, see it. But so basically they're there, and I think they're actually on the ship that Carmen is like piloting or something, or they're in the same place. They're coming from the same place. So now the mobile infantry is being taken by fleet to Clendathu. That's the whole point, right? That they're being like deployed. And so Xander and Carmen are there. Yeah. Rico and his crew are there. And there's this like kind of back and forth. One thing I noticed is in the background at this point, Mazzy Star's Fade Into You is playing. I'm like, wow, Mazzy Star survived this long. That's fantastic.
Great song, by the way.
Fantastic song. Absolutely.
But
a little anachronistic for the time.
Yeah. It's the first time I noticed it, and it so didn't fit really. But it was sticking with me. Back in, I think 2017 was the first year in California when we had a few years in a row of like really bad wildfires where, you know, you couldn't go outside for a week because of the smoke and stuff like that. And the night those fires started, my wife and I were in Sonoma at the Gundlach Bunshu Winery watching Hope Sandoval of Mazzy Star play. And we couldn't finish the concert because it was getting windy and windy. It was crazy. And I remember running down to the car, which was parked super far away, to come pick up her and her sister and they were like, we were watching like things on fire like blow across the road as we were leaving.
That's so crazy.
So there's always this like apocalyptic association I make with Mazzy Star that's not fair to Hope Sandoval or the band, but that is a killer song, and it was just really funny that was playing in the background during the fight.
That's the thing. So what happens is then Xander and Rico get in a fight basically over Carmen, right, which is like, this chick is not worth fighting over this way. She hasn't been good to anybody. But yeah, they basically, you know, they fight for a while, but then it gets broken up, and you know, Rico gets pulled back by Ace and Dizzy and the guys, and
they get their tattoos.
Yeah, they decide to get all their tattoos together. Death from above, mobile infantry, whatever. At which point Ace decides for kicks to pour alcohol over the brand new fresh tattoo. Why? That's not cool. Don't do that, man. Like, but also these are like weird future tattoos that are instantly healed, which is kind of cool because like that's sort of the worst part of getting the tattoo is the healing shortly after. But yeah. So now,
so they're on their way there, and they feel like they're going to Clendathu, but they're not expecting to be under attack to the degree that they are.
Yeah, we're told Brenda Strong's captain character tells Xander and Carmen, hey, you know, intelligence said these plasma blasts from the surface, they're going to be few and they're going to be random.
Right.
Well, they start hitting things. Like they're aiming at the ships and they start hitting them. And she's like, somebody made a huge mistake. This isn't, you know, few or random. So they are, you know, into maneuver around them, you know, like emergency maneuvers and all this stuff. And then they actually get hit as well. Before that though, they do mention, Xander says like, we're all deployed or whatever. So all the infantry who are on board did get to their drop ships. They're on their way down to the planet kind of while this plasma is being shot up into the sky. One or two drop ships get hit, but I think they're very small. They're more easily sort of able to avoid things. I noticed as they land on the planet's surface and the infantrymen start, you know, piling out of these, looks very, you know, landing of Normandy Beach kind of idea. They are shooting something up into the sky. Like there's like rockets or something. And I'm like, what are they shooting at? That's not like, the ships up there are theirs. It's
just
not,
to throw in case they're like heat-seeking bug plasma, you can throw it off.
It was very strange. But yeah, so they're shooting something in the air. It does not make any sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they land on the planet and they're kind of, you know, immediately in the shit, right?
Yeah.
There's all these arachnids after them. At this point, because Rico had been relieved of his duty, Ace is the squad leader.
That's right.
And he's leading him through, and they're kind of shooting some aliens, and then all of a sudden they're like surrounded.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, Ace, what do we do? And he kind of freezes. And Rico, this kills me so much. Rico, because, you know, he definitely has leadership and smarts and strategic brilliance here.
Yeah.
They look to him and he says, kill them all.
Very, very subtle. Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And so there's some good chaos here. At the very beginning of the film, when we're shown the newsreel, there is shown like live news footage of that reporter who's there on the planet with the infantry. So we're kind of caught up to the very beginning of the film now. Mm-hmm. And they end up getting attacked. The reporter gets pulled up. The cameraman gets hit. Rico gets stabbed in the leg. Yeah. Basically, it looks bad for Rico.
Yeah.
You know, left for dead. And then they're saying on the news thing, 100,000 dead in 1 hour.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And real quick, I want to mention, like, so when they first sort of see one of these big plasma shooting bugs, they have like these nuke bazookas, right? And so they're actually like firing a nuclear warhead at the thing, and it does blow it up. But like a battlefield nuke has to be a terrible idea. Like that's going to have ramifications for your own army. Yeah. So my thing is that there's that, and then their guns seem to be firing bullets. These are not laser weapons, right? These are conventional, you know, physical ballistics. And so do they really not have anything in between a bullet and a nuke? Because it takes way too long to kill these bugs with their rifles, right? I mean, it takes
like 4 guys
40 or 50
capacity
shots,
of bullets to kill one of them.
Wild.
Yeah.
And so they have that, or they have the nukes, and those are the only 2 weapons we ever see them use on the battlefield.
Yep,
is some version of like a 5.56 or whatever gun, and then a nuke. And it's like, really, all this, time and all this advancement and like, space travel and everything else, you couldn't come up with a weapon in between those two that would be like the thing, Wesley Snipes has in Demolition Man that has to like warm up and then shoot. Like they could have had something like that. Anyway.
It is kind of funny though. I mean, if you look at now, like the stuff that the infantry members of the military are using as far as machine guns and stuff like that, it probably hasn't advanced too much since like World War II, Korean War. Like a lot of this technology, even the planes, we're using the planes that were the future in 1985, but now it's like, why is the Top Gun plane still our main fucking plane? It's so far after that.
Yeah.
So we're shown 100,000 dead in 1 hour. And then we get kind of a talking head Crossfire style show.
Yeah.
With one guy who really reminds me of how Tucker Carlson was on the Jon Stewart appearance on Crossfire in the early 2000s. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where he absolutely just ran him down. But this is such a goofy guy. And he says, the other person is talking about, well, there might be like a brain bug. There might be something around this, some intelligence. And the guy says, frankly, I find the idea of a bug that thinks offensive.
Right. Yeah. Well, good for you, pal. But like, it doesn't mean that's not real. Facts doesn't care about your feelings, right? But yeah, so so then what happens is basically the Sky Marshal steps down because it was a horrible move to just think they could, take the infantry onto Clondathu and just wipe things up one-on-one, basically. Terrible idea. Totally underestimated the enemy. So they step down. New Sky Marshal comes in and is like, we're going to figure this out. And we're going to protect the human race. Like we're going to get it. Right. So they start with like an actual bombing run on not on Clondathu, but like one of the outlying systems. Well, I guess we should start before we get to that.
Oh, Rico.
Rico, they join a new team, right? Because it's like Rico's KIA, according to something that Carmen sees.
Yes.
But then we see him in like, reminded me of like Empire Strikes Back, Luke in the Bacta tank, right? He's in some kind of like healing thing that's sewing up his leg where he took a bug, forceps or whatever through.
It's like where Lilu Dallas came from in the Fifth Element.
Exactly. That kind of thing. Yeah. And so he's like floating in this stuff, and it's Ace and Dizzy show him his paperwork that says he's KIA, which is like funny. I don't really even know why they did that except to give Carmen the idea that he's dead. But it's like, how did that mistake happen? And then why is he immediately able to get re-registered to like a new team or whatever if he's, officially documented to being dead? Like it's very strange. But they get assigned to a new group, the Roughnecks. And so basically the only ones that are left are Ace, Dizzy, and Rico. And so they join this new group, and they hear that the lieutenant's a real ball buster, and Ace says this a few times, or nut buster, I think he says. And
the other troops don't stand for that.
No,
so
he gets
they're
knocked out.
basically starting. They're like, you don't know how many times this guy saved my life. He saved my life too. One of the other troops, I don't know if you recognize this guy, the black dude, bald head, he played Carver in The Wire, and he was also the priest in Walking Dead. I don't know how long
I never watched Walking
that
Dead.
went for.
Yeah.
But he was on The Wire for, the stretch of it. So it was a familiar actor. I was like, oh, he could have been the lead. He actually is an actor.
Right. He's actually an actor. There you go.
But yeah, Radchek is the lieutenant. And they're immediately going, and there's no like, oh, good to see you. Hey, sorry about everybody from the town that we both are from.
Right.
It's just all business right away.
Yeah. And he's got a mechanical arm now instead of just having the stump that he had at the beginning of the movie. And he is there, and he's got one rule. Everyone fights. Nobody quits. If you don't do your job, I'll shoot you myself.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess, setting expectations is really important. I'm glad that he's able to so clearly set expectations with his team.
Yeah. And now they end up on this planet here where the airstrikes had taken place, and they're there to clean up.
Yeah. And that makes a lot more sense, right? You come in with these like bombs, clearly very effective, almost like a napalm, bombing. They're really killing a ton of these arachnids with these bombs. And then they send down mobile infantry to sort of clean up. And initially they are sort of just walking through, carcasses, and it doesn't look like much, but they end up getting in a fight, with some bugs that are there. And then a big one of these big, I think it's the same ones that do the plasma shooting from their butts. They can also shoot flames basically from their faces.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a liquid that is on fire. So it doesn't shoot, it shoots like a flamethrower sort of idea, right? Where the flame like falls a bit after a little distance. But basically like they can't beat this thing. Like it's very hard, right? They've already used a nuke.
The bullets aren't doing much.
Yeah, the thing is so big, and the armor, the exoskeleton's so thick. So Rico gets the idea to get up onto like the cliff, above it, and jump onto it, and then sort of use his gun to shoot a hole into its carapace in the back. And he just basically tosses a grenade down into it and flies, whatever. It's basically Luke and the Walker on Hoth. The same kind of idea.
Yeah.
And then he's like thrown free from it, and it explodes. And he took it. I mean, and everybody's like, dude, that's amazing. And it gives us another
cool scene, by the way.
Very cool scene. Yeah. Very good action scene. One of the other sort of soldiers who's like, I think maybe the corporal or the sergeant that, was working with Radcheck, she loses her arm. The flaming bug like burns her arm off or whatever. So she obviously can't, continue as a leadership role at least, which gives Rico
there's an opening now.
He's a field promotion to corporal.
Yep.
Basically. And so.
And Radcheck says, cool. I need a corporal. Rico, you're it until you're dead or until I find someone better.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So then we kind of cut to the evening of the same day, and Radcheck's got a case of beer and a couple of kegs of beer and some entertainment, which looks like footballs
it's a trunk
and a fiddle.
Full of balls and a fiddle. Yeah,
it's very interesting. But they're having a little party. They're celebrating whatever. And one of the guys comes over to Rico and gives another one of the lines I love. Is like, Rico, you kill bugs good. And that was a choice. And you could tell the way that actor delivered that was a choice. That was like, there's a way you can tell.
That might have been the guy I was talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. And clearly an actor, because that was such a fantastic deadpan delivery of like a crappy grammatical line.
Yes.
Like, Rico, you kill bugs good. And he like gives him a beer, like.
And they're having this celebration and it's great. And, finally, Rico and Diz end up hooking up.
And again, she says to him, I love you, Johnny.
Yeah.
And he does not say it back. So this man has had two beautiful women
What's
tell
he holding
him
out for?
They love him, and he can't say it back. This real, of all your faults, Johnny Rico, that is one of the biggest.
I know. Jeez. They're about to hook up, and then Radcheck basically pops his head in and says, Rico, we need you out of here in 10 minutes.
We're mobilizing again. Party's over. Yeah.
And then he sees some rustling under he's like, who is that? And she pops her head up, and then he goes, I'll make it 20 minutes. And, so they hook up and, all good for that. And she does say that she loves him, which is whatever. You're in the battlefield. We're all going to die. Say what you want to say.
What does this guy have to offer besides his jawline? Like really, this guy just has nothing to offer.
100% jawline. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So now we're kind of on a new patrol and they're in this canyon.
Distress signal, basically. They got a distress signal and they had to go, answer it. And so, they're like walking through and trying to figure out, what's going on. And Rico's looking through some binoculars or whatever and looking up at there's like rocks coming down from above. So it's like, what's going on? And there is a little flutter of maybe like wings or something, but he doesn't really seem to notice or say anything, which I would have been like, hey, Lieutenant, I think I see something over that ridge. Right. Like he clearly saw something.
Anything that's not a person, call it out. Yes, dude. What else are we talking about here?
So then Radcheck sends his actual sergeant who's got the comms pack up to it. He's like, I can't get anything on the comms. Oh, well, it's this canyon, get up to higher ground, and do it from there. Well, he does that. But then, one of these flying like dragonfly sort of bugs, comes and grabs him and is like fleeing there. And it's just all bad. And he's about to get like eaten alive. And Radcheck gets a sniper rifle and puts one through his heart. And he's like, I expect everyone in this squad to do the same for me. And it's like, I get that. That part makes a lot of sense.
That's a good, part of it is the mercy killing.
Yeah.
They end up coming across the distress signals coming from this base, which looks very similar to that like Mormon outpost that it showed earlier.
It's clearly like a prefab fort that easily gets set up, right? Can be
you
brought
just
by
buy
a
like a kit for it or whatever.
It's from Costco.
Yeah, it's from Temu.
Right.
And they go in there and just everyone's dead. Like this distress signal is coming from somewhere where literally everyone's dead. You could tell that the bugs came in and took this whole thing over. There's nobody there that they can find except then they hear this sound inside of a cabinet and there's this very cowardly whimpering general character who's like, oh, they're going to kill us all. Very like panicking. A good, get a hold of yourself, where you get to slaps. Oh, I need to see someone who needs to get a hold of themselves so bad. It would be, Your Honor, I'm sorry. They needed to get a hold of themselves, so I slapped them.
It's the universal clearance for assault is that they needed to get a hold of themselves.
So this is a really cool scene here.
Yes. So basically they find the radio operator or the communications operator and he's got a hole in his head almost the size of a baseball. And, Radcheck literally reaches into it and there's no brain in there. Mm-hmm. They sucked his brain out. And that's when they find the general. And when he comes out, he talks about how they get into your mind. They make you do things. And they realize, oh shit, this was not actually a distress signal. Everybody was dead, and the bugs used this human by controlling him, sort of Ratatouille style, except from the inside of the head, and made the distress call. It was a trap. They've been trapped. And so now they leave Diz to try to fix the comms, communications array so that they can reach out to the fleet. And they now they look over the fence of this outpost and an absolute huge swarm of arachnids is coming out. I mean, like no amount of their rifles is going to actually stop.
Not enough weapon, nothing. Yeah.
And so they start attacking and, one thing I've noticed is like, it's very much like, I feel like this happens in zombie movies a lot. Like as zombies come attacking some fortified position and you're killing them, they start climbing the dead bodies of other zombies.
World
Same
War
thing.
Z style.
Exactly. The arachnids are now climbing the pile of dead arachnids as they're trying, because this base has a couple of really big, machine gun turrets. They're able to do some decent damage on an individual bug by bug basis. But like, this is not a winning proposition for them. They need to get a drop ship. There's a point where the general is just absolutely freaking out and like, oh, we're all dead. We're all gonna die. Oh my God. And then it's like these flying bugs are coming down and one of them gets shot. First of all, they're cutting heads off left and right.
Yes.
Every time the flying
limbs
bugs,
and heads flying.
Heads cut in half, heads cut off. It's really, really maniacal when these crazy flying bugs come. But one of them gets shot by the big machine gunner or maybe by a shotgun or something. And it sort of like loses control of its flight path, but flies right into the general, just smearing him across the ground. So he's gone. We don't got to worry about him anymore.
And when that happens, Ace and Rico give each other a kind of look like,
That's one less thing we got to worry about.
it's a living.
Right.
Like,
another day at the office.
It's funny how they react. And honestly, it was good seeing that guy, because that guy was very annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bugs, they're getting overrun and they're like, we need a rescue
or we're all dead. Yeah.
You better have a crazy pilot.
Yeah, right. Hope you've got a crazy pilot. Come down on this transmission inside the outpost. I hope you got a crazy pilot. Foreshadowing that will be revealed in 20 seconds.
Yeah. So of course, then Carmen ends up flying the evacuation ship into there, and Xander. And it looks like, okay, we're getting out. I mean, guys are getting killed as they're trying to get in, but all of a sudden the ground is breached, I believe. Yes. And Radchek is pulled underneath. So he's basically
about halfway.
So he's losing his legs as well, or whatever. So, Rico needs to, Radchek says, like, you know what to do. He mercy kills Radchek.
Yep.
And then on their way out as well, at the very last second, Diz gets really slashed as she's getting onto the transport. So she gets on there with them, and then they take off.
I have always wished in watching this movie, I mean, literally from the first viewing of this movie, I really wished it had been Carmen and not Dizzy that got it.
Yeah.
I feel like if one of these two had to survive, I really wish it had been Dizzy and not Carmen.
Totally.
But yeah, so now they're on the drop ship, they're getting away, and Rico runs up to Xander and Carmen and is like, hey, let's get the fleet to bombard Planet P immediately, whatever. And over, so he calls that in, but over the comms coming back, I think the captain of their ship, Brenda Strong, she's like, negative, fleet's got, or, military intelligence has another plan for P. And then Rico gives one of the best lines he delivers in the movie, which is, that's right, infantry does the dying, fleet does the flying. And I do like the way he delivers it. It's very angry and upset and fittingly so. So kudos, Casper. That was a good line delivery. But yeah, so they're brought back up to the Roger Young, which is the ship that Carmen's on.
Right. And Diz is succumbed to her injuries. So
she is no more.
Diz gets killed, and the thing that she says to Johnny is, at least I got to have you, which is just, God, Diz, you're so much better than that. I'm sure your life is so full of achievements that are better than fucking this zilch who didn't pay any attention to you.
You could have been playing starting quarterback for Tokyo.
Yeah. I mean, jeez. But at least it wasn't another unreturned "I love you."
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good point. And although he did have the opportunity to say a pretty consequence-free "I love you" if he wanted to at that point, he really should have.
Dude, let it rip, man. She's not getting better.
There's nothing. Yeah,
promise her some stuff. Come on. Oh, we'll get married as soon as we land.
Just what we called pillow talk, baby.
Anyway. So now they basically have this kind of space funeral for Diz. The conditions your remains end up in as someone who makes it back to the ship are so much better. There's all these half people just littering planets everywhere. Yes. And then Diz gets a cool coffin shot out into space and this ceremony and it's like speeches a Viking and funeral stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
Carl immediately walks in very cold. It looks like Carl's Neil Patrick Harris. We haven't seen him in a bit. his eyes look kind of more sunken. Like there's something about
he looks
the way
aged.
he looks that it's, like he's been affected by what he's doing.
They were trying to show us, like, he's become colder, more calculating, tired, stressed, et cetera, all this stuff. He makes a comment about like, hey, thanks to you guys, we now know P has a brain bug on it. And they're like, oh, that's what this was all about? Like, like had to make calls. And he basically says like, you don't like it? Too bad. This is how it works. We send in people to go die. I do this all day long. Very cold, very heartless, and very intentionally so. And this was the thing where I will forgive you if you did not take these uniforms as satire, because they are they're on the nose.
Very close.
For SS uniforms. They are literally missing nothing except for the swastika itself, the red armband. That's the only thing they're missing. But
Prince Harry Halloween costume level.
It's still very much satire. This is part of the Verhoeven's, play on this. But yes, these are very on the nose. Not to the hats in particular look exactly like the dude who died on the tank in Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. Like he,
for sure.
looked exactly like that. So I get it. But this is they're the head honchos, and they've discovered that they did believe that bugs had brain bugs. There were thinking bugs that are kind of controlling these swarms, and this proves it, right? They basically felt like, we know for sure now P's got a brain on it because they couldn't have, ambushed you, basically.
Right.
The regular bugs wouldn't
like
have planned
the
an
spores
ambush.
that they just send out to a planet probably wouldn't be doing that.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So now they're going to have to go back. And this is one thing I want to briefly mention, is that I do feel like this movie's too long. I feel like this movie's too long by 15 to 20 minutes.
I think that's fair.
And one of the things is they have 4 different active campaigns, and they really could have done 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Because there's the one where, they go to Clendathu and everybody gets decimated and Rico loses his whole squad. Like that kind of had to happen. I get it, right? But then once he joins the Roughnecks, everything that happened to that point could have all been one campaign. It could have all been one attack. Maybe you lose you could have had Dizzy and Casper and Rico, screw on the boat beforehand if they have to. I don't know. There would have been ways to do it. Carmen doesn't have to think he's dead at some point. Like this is all kind of, there was so much extra stuff in there. But it is what it is.
They already paid for the trunk full of frisbees and saxophones.
Exactly. So now we're going to have our 4th deployment, basically down to a bug planet, in order to capture the brain. That's the new mission, right? Is not that they're not there to destroy anything necessarily. They're there to capture it.
Right. And Carmen and Xander are, again, have the duty of getting them down there.
That's right.
The starship is heavily under attack.
Yes.
And Carmen and Xander end up crash landing
Real quick, I want to mention.
Yeah.
So their ship gets hit like real bad. Like it's clear that it's going down. It actually cuts their ship in half. So them and their captain, Brenda Strong, are running around trying to get to the escape pods. She gets crushed by a door in a way that was very reminiscent to me of Rose McGowan in Scream getting cut in half by the garage door.
Ooh, yeah.
It was something that I thought of initially. But so they get, Xander and Carmen get to an escape pod and they get out, but they are basically have no other choice but to fly down to the planet's surface and try to call for help from there. And they actually end up sort of busting through the ground into like this underground cavern system, which is not ideal if you're on a planet overrun by bugs.
Not at all. And of course, they end up being surrounded by the basic arachnids, like the kind of infantry type arachnids that we see. And they're looking at each other like they both have been stabbed. I think Carmen through the shoulder and Xander through the leg. And they're like, why aren't they killing us? What's going on? And then all of a sudden they kind of back up, and then these little, like kind of like the ones they were dissecting earlier, all come up. And then the brain bug walks up, and this kind of arm, like spider arm looking thing comes out of its.
But it's a straw.
Yeah, and it jams into Xander's head and just drinks his brains out.
Sucks his brain right out, which is like very Highlander, very like I'm gaining your powers, I guess, or something. I'm learning what you know. Like as if our thoughts and knowledge is literally stored in our brain in an accessible way, right? Like
if I eat this, I will know everything you know.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. But Rico's Roughnecks now, because Radchek's dead, Rico is the lieutenant of the Roughnecks, is taken over, and they call it Rico's Roughnecks as they've welcomed a whole bunch of new, very young recruits in order to be part of this. They're heading down through the tunnels. They know where another group is going, and they kind of are being told where to go to find the brain bug. But Rico stops at this sort of, fork in the road, basically in these underground tunnels, and is like, we need to go this way. And they're like, well, A company's that way. He's like, yeah, but Carmen's this way. And they were pretty sure she's dead because they heard that the Roger Young went down.
Yep.
And so he's like, okay, the rest of Roughnecks, you guys go, but I need 2 volunteers. So Ace, I think it's Wilcox, I think is the name of the other character. And they go with him down to like where, this is basically where Xander and Carmen are. And before they get there, Xander's been killed by the brain bug, and the brain bug is coming at Carmen to suck her brains too. But before that happened, she had been handed a knife by Xander in a way that none of the arachnids notice. I don't know where their eyeballs are located. She is able to reach up and cut off this proboscis, this whatever straw thing that comes out of the brain bug. She's able to cut it off. Now, why she is not instantly shredded by the arachnids after having attacked their leader, I don't know. I'm not sure why that worked that way, but it is about that time that Rico and Ace and Wilcox show up, and they start, sort of firing at the bugs and sort of shooting whatever and trying to save her. And they're able to he's holding up a nuke, basically threatening. He's like, Princess Leia in Jabba's palace, with the thermal detonator, holding it up like, I'm going to blow us all up.
What this is. This is going to go boom.
You're a smart bug, right? This is going to, and so the brain bug backs off, but I can see why maybe the arachnids didn't attack then, right? The brain bug's telling them, hey, this guy's serious, whatever, that sort of thing. Brain bug backs out. They're able to head down the way. And I think Wilcox takes an arachnid, spike through the arm or through the chest. I mean, he's gone. So he says, leave me the nuke. I'll take care of this.
He's in Dyson mode.
He is.
He's in Miles Dyson mode.
Baby.
But he's not going out like Miles Dyson because he is blasting the entire time.
Yes, he's got the gun going.
He's really letting it rip, and he saves the day.
Yep.
He didn't act it quite as well as the great Joe Morton there, but you got to have that part. You got to have the person who sacrifices. I'm going to die anyway. Let me blow up some of these guys before I go out.
So Ace and Carmen and Rico are able to exit the tunnels, at which point they see a bunch of like cheering infantry, and it's like something big has happened. So they sort of join the crowd that's running, and it's like, oh, we caught it. We caught the brain bug, oh my gosh, kind of thing. At which point one of my thoughts is like, why aren't they being swarmed by arachnids? They've pulled this brain bug out of the cavern. It's like covered in ropes and they're capturing it. But like, why aren't they being attacked by all the other bugs on the planet at that point?
I mean, I wonder if the brain bug can give instruction, like knowing a probability of I will be killed if you...
Its own self-preservation, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. But it doesn't fit with the mentality of like the horde of insects that we're led to
But if this is the one bug that is sort of human and has an ego and has an understanding and fear of death, then maybe that makes sense. I didn't quite put that together. But okay, that works. I would say too, the music at this point in the movie, pretty much from Carmen and Xander's capture through the other action of these scenes and into this capture, the music in the background really was reminiscent to me of Avengers Endgame. And obviously it would be the other way around, that the Endgame music is reminiscent of this. But like, having watched Endgame more recently than my last viewing of Starship Troopers, it was really funny how very much like the Avengers theme the music playing in this thing is, and it made me think about just how fascistic is the Avengers, if that's like what the line I'm drawing or the connection I'm drawing here. But that's for another podcast.
So the brain bug comes out, and it's just captured in like the most old timey classic style net that they're dragging it out. So it's like, what it took in the end was just capturing this guy. Carl walks up to the brain bug and puts his hand on its head, and then looks down and says, "It's afraid." So he's able to sense that it has
and everybody
fear.
Cheers because they were aware in what they were aware of, right? Because they obviously didn't know their enemy that well. They feel no fear. So there is no like they're the perfect soldier kind of thing. But now we know, okay, in this society of bugs, there are some that are afraid, and they're the ones in charge. So therefore they can maybe be manipulated, I guess, is sort of the thought, right?
Right. And I think Carl basically reunites with Rico and Carmen.
Right.
And, hey, we're old buddies together and stuff. And Carl says, in the end, what it took was a private named Zim who was able to capture the bug. And this is the former drill sergeant who had busted himself down to private so he could see some of the shit in the war rather than be stuck killing and maiming recruits as a drill sergeant. The final thing that we're shown is another one of the propaganda reels. And it's, service guarantees citizenship, and it's highlighting some of the characters we've watched throughout the movie. You could be like, the pilot Xander and Carmen Ibanez, Captain, right?
Carmen
they all have like
Ibanez,
increased
Lieutenant
ranks.
Rico, and although I noticed they mentioned Private Ace, whatever his name is. So in other words,
because he said he was done. He didn't want anything to do with the leadership
Okay,
role.
that's a good point. Because I was thinking to myself, like, how did he not get any promotions while Rico went from private to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant? He gets nothing, but he forgot he did say that specifically, that he just wanted to fight, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And then, you see that Rico has adapted Radchek's like, come on, you punks, you want to live forever?
Right.
And stuff like that as they're running into war.
Yeah.
So it ends with, they'll keep fighting and they'll win.
Yeah.
And just ends on this propaganda video. And then
That's the movie.
That's it.
Whew. So good. And yeah, it's a little too long. Definitely, maybe 15, 20 minutes too long, but like damn good stuff. And it was so interesting to watch it today, just with everything going on. And I'm not going to get into every bit of it, but like, there is a reliance on militarization and othering of people who are foreign of us. And, and it's just, there's so much going on that this movie attacks in a satirical way that is like very prevalent and very, very sort of apropos today. And so I thought it was a really interesting watch in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was your movie, Steve. Should I give my score first?
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is something that right off the bat, when I first saw it as a young person, it got me for a lot of reasons. And I think over time it gets me for different reasons. I agree with you about the length of the movie. I think you could carve 15 or 20 out of it. And then, certain of the performances weren't great or whatever, but I kept coming back to Verhoeven was somehow able to make a $100 million critique of like the U.S. empire or just like any kind of colonial empire in a very smart way. And maybe if it was so obvious that the Stephen Hunters of the world knew what it was supposed to be, then it wouldn't have got greenlit.
Potentially.
So it's like you have to be a little subversive with this stuff. Yeah. And I think this is it's classic Verhoeven. I really enjoy him. I like the risk that he takes. I'm kind of surprised at how this didn't do all that well. I mean, it didn't do well at the box office by the really standards that we use. But it was an enjoyable movie to watch. I think the special effects are decent. They hold up pretty well.
I agree completely, especially all of the creature effects.
Yes.
The bugs in particular
they
hold
look
up real
cool.
well. Yeah.
And it's nice starting with something that's completely unfamiliar to people. So like, we don't know how those are supposed to move and if the effects make it look good or not. Right. So totally different. They created this world and the propaganda videos spliced throughout
so good.
Were very brilliant. The looks of it, the Nazi-ness of it was an intentional part of the satire. Acting not good, but I think
some of it was
purpose.
okay. I think the
like
actors,
some of the side characters, like you said.
Well, and Dina Meyer, I think, is a decent actress who played Dizzy, and obviously Neil Patrick Harris is a good actor, and he wasn't in a ton of it, but he's a good actor, and Michael Ironsides is a fantastic actor. So there were definitely some people, but really it suffered from
the leads, I guess.
Rico, Carmen, and Xander in particular, and Jake Busey is not a very good actor either. But really, those three, Xander, Carmen, and Rico, are all pretty bad, and it definitely hurt sort of the actual film itself.
Yeah. All that being said, though, I can't give this anything less than a 4 out of 5 because I have so much respect. First of all, I really enjoyed just the ride of the movie.
Yeah.
I like a little Mazzy Star showing up in it. And also, I just have a lot of respect for what Verhoeven was trying to do. And I think that time has kind of vindicated this film.
Yes.
So I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Really liked it.
That's great. That's good stuff. Yeah. I mean, I kind of can't disagree with anything you said. I think that the qualms I have with the film are all very similar to the ones you have. Like I said from before, I think it is a little too long. There definitely could have been a much more like a streamlining of the plot. We didn't need as many deployments, by each unit, quite as much as we had. And so, there's that part of it. The acting, definitely left something to be desired by the unfortunately the people on the screen the most, right? Which is a bummer. However, this is classic Verhoeven. I love about it that it was so misunderstood at its inception, at its release, because I feel like it adds to the sort of mythology of the film and gives it this sort of place in like my mind, and I think in a lot of moviegoers' minds, about how we can be wrong about how movies are received. And we have to, the movie never changes, right? Nothing about the film changes from the moment that it is released until whatever time in the future. We change.
Right.
And so we have to re-examine films with whatever new perspective we have. And the fact that this movie came out before 9/11 in particular, and again, I wonder if it could have come out after, but the fact that it came out before, I think, is one of the reasons that it was so difficult for people to notice and recognize the satire of it and the anti-fascist, sort of bend throughout the movie. Which again is sort of silly when you think about Verhoeven and that this was the 5th of a run of 5 very
Noted
strong satires.
Paul Verhoeven. Yeah.
Right. And 2 of which were in the sci-fi genre. He'd already done RoboCop and Total Recall. So having this setting and being able to make modern day, this is very much Rodgers and Hammerstein and the Mikado. This is making fun of, or satirizing. What they did was they satirized, the British Empire in a way that would have gotten them thrown in jail if it had been about Britain. So it was about Japan, right? And it was all about Britain, but the setting was Japan. This is all about the United States, but the setting was this future in space, you know? And so it's classic quality satire in that way. I am also a 4 out of 5. I think this is a 4-star movie. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but it is so important, and it's the story behind it is so good, and sort of everything about it. It's one I love. So so we're an 8 out of 10. The Two Dads on Starship Troopers, masterpiece from Paul Verhoeven. And this was my pick. So Nick, what are we going to watch next week?
Well, I know we just watched a very biting satire of aspects of U.S. society, directed by a maybe underappreciated director who we both love, starring an actor who's definitely not classically trained. Are we doing this again, you're saying? So what we're doing next is we're going to go to the year 1988.
All right.
And we're going to go to Los Angeles, and we're going to hang out with one of my favorite Scotsmen.
Okay.
The great Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Love it.
And we're going to enjoy John Carpenter's classic, They Live.
You're absolutely right, though, that the parallels between, the choice of the actor, the director being misunderstood, but immensely creative. I mean, and we'll get into this next week, the creature effects and the special effects in their movies collectively. Fantastic. I love They Live. I have not seen it, I think, since college. I think it's been over 2 decades since I've seen They Live. But ready to strap on the sunglasses, man.
Hell yeah. Can't wait, man.
So this has been another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. This was Starship Troopers. If you like what you're hearing, please go to Apple, go to Spotify, give us a 5-star review. It helps people find the podcast. And if you want to send us a note, let us know what we're doing well or not, or give us your opinion on stuff, you can email us at theshow@twodads1movie.com. That's the number 2 and the number 1. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And next week we'll be back with They Live. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.